Good morning, everybody. I am so happy that you guys were able to show up today on Star Wars Day. So, since it's Star Wars Day and this video is for tomorrow, I decided I'm just gonna go ahead and give you a tour of my new car. I just got this new whip and want to show you guys around. So, check it out. Yes, that is right. I am in my Millennium Falcon. So, some little old-fashioned Star Wars chess, if you guys remember. This is where I usually do my Zoom sessions when I'm in space. Show my little friend. There's BB-8. What's up, BB-8? Where's my coffee? Go get my coffee, buddy. And R2-D2. He's just is like you guys. Just likes to have staring contests. Doesn't really know what's going on. He's actually projecting me. But look at BB-8. He just takes laps all day. Say hi, BB-8. Okay, maybe not. See you later, buddy. But yeah, so this is my new whip. Just wanted to show you guys around my new Millennium Falcon 2000. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. Anywho, just wanted to show you guys my new whip, but now I'm gonna go ahead and come back down to earth with you humans so I can go ahead and teach you guys the lesson for today. So I'll see you guys in a bit. Alrighty, I'm back. So back in time. Just to review what we talked about yesterday. Yesterday we talked about the Morse code and how we talked about how telecommunications started to pretty much improve as a result of the industrial and transportation revolution. We talked about this guy named Morse, Samuel Morse, who created the Morse code, which was using electrical currents to send messages across wires. And at first it wasn't accepted. Eventually it did get accepted after the presidential election, and then after that everyone started to use this, and this was revolutionary because now people are able to communicate across country with wiretapping, and it's still used today, which is kind of cool. We already know what kind of advancements it had led to, such as the cell phone, telephones, just anything Zoom. So we can kind of see how telecommunications is still revolutionary. And we also started to create some new inventions, like some of the ones that you guys said, which we'll talk about in a second. So let's go ahead and jump into the review of the questions for yesterday. So number one, what event led to the widespread use of the telegraph, and what effects did the telegraph have on cross-country communication? The event that led to it was the National Democratic Convention. And this was when they were able to see live results and see what the candidates were talking about in live time. What effect did this have? This had an effect on everything because once it was endorsed or the president approved it, everyone else started to use it. So now businesses were using it, railroads were using it, people had these in their homes, and also the newspaper reporters started to use it. So after the president accepted it and they proved it, that it worked and people were really communicating, everyone started to accept it. Number two, how does Morse code work? So Morse code, the way it works is you would tap on this little controller or button, and it would send electrical pulses or surges across this wire. And it had dots and dashes, different sounds, and it represented different letters in the alphabet. And if you remember, 3 dots, 3 dashes, 3 dots, that means SOS or help. So that's how Morse code worked. Number three, what type of communication device might one day replace our cell phones? You guys had some crazy inventions. You guys had one that says people are just going to stare at each other in the eyes now and they're going to be able to communicate with each other, which is kind of weird. Kind of like the guy in the thinking cap with his yellow eyes. You guys also said that there's going to be a little dot that you guys put on your forehead, and this is how it's going to transmit electrical signals to each other. I know yesterday in the Zoom meeting, you guys talked about the beluga whale and how they're going to communicate. So maybe one day we're going to do that. Another person said that no one's going to replace a cell phone. It's just the cell phones are going to evolve, which is kind of cool. Yes, that might be true, where we're just going to tap something into our ear and we're going to be able to communicate with everybody. But that's a little creepy. So yeah, I like your creativity on these devices that you guys said. So today what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about the new factories, steam-powered factories, and we're also going to talk about some improvements that they made to farming equipment. So let's go ahead and jump into that for today. So at the start of the Industrial Revolution, most of the factories ran off of water power. Like we talked about, they had to be built by streams and rivers because the water was powering everything through the little windmill type thing. So in time, however, factory owners began to use steam power, just like the boats and just like the trains. This shift brought many changes to the way the nation's industries were running and operating. Water-powered factories had to be built near streams and waterfalls or rivers. But now with the steam power, businesses were allowed to open up factories wherever they wanted. They didn't need to be by water anymore. So when this happened, factories started to pop up all over. Still, the Northeast was still home to some of the most biggest and largest industries and factories, and New England alone had pretty much just as many factories as the entire South did. Because remember, the South focused on farming and agriculture. So some of these companies decided to build their factories closer to cities and transportation centers. And the reason why was because it provided easier access to workers. So now people don't have to travel as far and they can just go in the city, and this is where all the factories were and they can work in it. It also allowed that people to move, not allow people to travel far, so they can still pay them lower wages. All right, so the low wages was allowed because they were building in the middle of the cities. Also, being close to the cities reduced shipping costs, because now with reduced shipping costs, they are going to be able to make more money, because now they only really have to transport goods down the street rather than across the country. And this allowed them to control the wages and had good access to the workers. All right, so people from rural areas, like the farms, and people from foreign countries, they all flocked and they all came to the cities to come work in these new factories. In these factories, many factory workers actually improved the designs of many kinds of machines. So mechanics invented tools that can cut and shape metals, stones, and wood, and they use this to cut with great precision. So now they didn't have to do things by hand. Remember, the machines started to take over a lot of things. So by the 1840s, this new machinery was able to produce interchangeable parts. And remember the importance about interchangeable parts. We talked about this when we developed the whole system with the guns. With interchangeable parts, it was a lot easier to fix things. And now you can make things and replace the parts if they broke. And pretty much everything was uniform. So everything was made as the same way. So if you ever built a model car or anything modeled like, those are all interchangeable parts, like this photo right here. Even Legos can be considered as interchangeable parts because you can customize it and build it however you want. So within a short period of time, this growing machine tool industry was even making customized equipment. So people were making customized equipment for certain factories, and now everything's becoming streamlined, customized, and everything is interchangeable. So with all these new inventions, it also led to a factory revolution. So not only were steam-powered factories popping up all over the place, new machinery, but also all this new technology and these new machines that are specialized, they started to build better equipment. So during the 1830s, technology began transforming the farms just like they were in the factories. In 1837, this guy, he was a blacksmith, someone that uses metal. His name was John Deere, and you guys are pretty much, I think you guys heard of John Deere because of their tractors that you see around, or maybe you've seen some of the hats, the green and the little deer on the hat. That's him. So they saw that in Illinois, they had difficult plowing this thick soil. So what they did was these iron plows, the ones that were getting pulled by animals, they weren't really cutting it, because remember, iron was strong, but if you can have steel, it'll work a lot better. And with the steel industry growing, they decided we're going to start to make tools out of steel. So he thought that a steel blade might work much better. So he designed the first ever steel plow in 1846, and it was a success. So the picture on top, that is the steel plow. So what it did was it cut up the grass and flipped over the soil so they can plant things, and it was perfect. Within the first year of creating the steam plow, they saw how successful it was, and he sold over 1,000 plows per year, which revolutionized farming. And now farming was able to do it, take off, and join the revolution as well. The next thing that improved farm equipment was in 1831. This guy's name was Cyrus McCormick, and he developed this new harvesting machine. And this machine, it was pretty much like a mechanical reaper. So pretty much what it was before, people had like machetes and they're going around and chopping down all the wheat, all the corn, but it was all by hand. Now what they decided, we're going to create this thing that is going to be efficient, quick, and it's going to be mechanicalized. And this pretty much what it is it cut down all the crops. So what it did was it had like this huge swinging blade on the back, and it was just cutting down all the wheat and collecting the wheat for everybody. So now you didn't have to do this by hand anymore. So McCormick used these new methods and his sales started to go. One thing that McCormick did though that was pretty much different, it was one of the first of its time was that he started to advertise his plow. So what he would do is he would get people to come into his farm. He would give demonstrations. He would allow people to try it out. For example, he would have a repair shop. So if your blade needed to be fixed or if it needed to be sharpened or something broke, you can bring it to his department or his factory and he would repair and provide spare parts for you if anything was broken. So he was like the first ever kind of like businessman. And he also allowed people to start using credit. So if somebody couldn't afford it, he said, it's okay, you can pay me a little bit now, just keep paying me a little bit month by month, and you can go ahead and buy my machine. So he was like the first businessman who fixed things, had a department that provided services, and he also let people buy with credit. So the combination of Deere's plow and McCormick's reaper allowed Midwestern farmers to plant and harvest huge amount of crops. So now, with more food, it's going to call for more population growth, more abundance, and trade is going to start to boom, actually. So in 1860, U.S. farms were producing more than 170 million bushels of wheat and more than 80 million bushels of corn per year. So now the U.S. is becoming one of the biggest suppliers of corn and wheat, and this is only going to help the industry grow because now they're able to support their people in their cities, and now they're going to be able to trade back and forth with other countries or possibly in long further distances. So now farming is going to see an agricultural boom. So as a quick review, we talked about how the factories changed from water power to steam power, which allowed factories to be built anywhere now because now they didn't need to be by rivers. Still, most factories were built in the northern areas because, just like you guys all know, manufacturing was popular in the north and agriculture was popular in the south. We also talked about how this improved farming equipment. John Deere created this new steel plow, and McCormick created this new reaper, or this big, huge chopper that would chop down wheat and corn. And McCormick was particularly special because he created a repair shop, a department area where you can take your machines if it was broken or if you needed parts to be replaced, he would fix it for you. He also was like the first ever businessman who advertised his product, gave demonstrations, and he let customers buy on credit. So if they couldn't afford it all right now, he would just have them pay little by little. In combination with both of these, farms were able to produce a whole lot more food, and now this is going to give a little boost to the agriculture industry because now they're going to be able to trade and become wealthy and become some of the biggest suppliers in the world for farming. For homework, I want you to answer these 3 questions. Number 1, what changes resulted from the shift to steam power? So what happened to steam power? Don't forget, I forgot to mention in the review, when they did this, the steam power, and they changed the factories, they also started to improve the interchangeable parts in the factories. Okay, so don't forget about the steam power. Going to steam power, they improved factories as well. Sorry, I forgot to review that again. Number 2, what effects do the new inventions have on agriculture in the United States? So think of McCormick and Deere. And number 3, what role did mechanics play in the machine tool industry? So what were the mechanics doing? Were they the ones inventing things? Were they the ones fixing things? What were mechanics used for? Just think about mechanics now if you're confused. What do mechanics do now when you take your car to the shop? What do they do? So here you are. These are your questions for today. Alrighty, so that concludes today's lesson. It felt kind of weird making a video for you guys again. I really don't like it. I'd rather just have live classes. It's a lot more fun to see you guys interact and see you guys draw. But we'll still do this at least 2 times a week, and we'll meet 3 times a week. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. And don't forget, tomorrow morning at 11, I will see you guys all for another Zoom session. So looking forward to that. I'll see you guys all tomorrow.